Welcome to Thrive with Pride by AgeOptions, an inclusive online space for LGBT+ older adults and those who care for them. This is a recording of a live event held on Zoom, which included a Q&A segment that was not recorded. This month, we welcomed Cynthia Ayala from AgeOptions to provide an overview of what a Dementia Friend is and how you can become one. Participants learned how to effectively communicate with someone living with Alzheimer's or dementia, in addition to early symptoms of Alzheimer's compared to other signs of aging, and 5 key take-home messages. Please see the video description below for a PDF of Cynthia's slides and other helpful resources.
So I'm pleased to welcome my colleague Cynthia Ayala of AgeOptions today, who will be doing our presentation on Dementia Friends. Cynthia is the Caregiver and Dementia Program Specialist at AgeOptions. She leads our Caring Together Living Better program, which is a self-directed by our faith and community-based institutions to meet the needs of family caregivers and older adults. Cynthia also oversees our Grandparents Raising Grandchildren program with services including gap filling, support groups, and counseling through our caregiver resource centers. And she leads our dementia-friendly community efforts. So without further ado, I will pass it over to Cynthia, and we'll let you take it away for the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you everyone for joining. I'm so happy to virtually meet you all. If you have any questions and want to stop me halfway, that's completely fine. If you need me to clarify or just repeat a few things, that's also fine. Next slide, please. So today, participants will be able to describe what dementia is and the most common type. We'll be able to learn about symptoms of dementia and how it differs from normal aging. We'll be able to explain at least one approach for effective communication. We will learn to identify the 5 key messages of being a dementia friend. And at the end, we will commit to an action as a dementia friend in our community. So what is the first word that comes to mind when we hear the word dementia? Dementia is an overwhelming concept. So for many people, it can mean confusion, it can mean memory, it can just be overwhelming in general because everyone's journey is different. Next slide, please. So what is dementia? Dementia is a broad term used to describe a group of diseases and conditions that can affect your memory, your cognitive thinking, your social abilities. In other words, it's severely enough to interfere with our daily functioning, such as our daily activities, and that can include like waking up and brushing your teeth, remembering to put your shoes on, remembering where the car keys are at, going into the kitchen, and even remembering how to make a sandwich, for example. And then you can click the next part. Thank you. So there are many types of different dementia, and oftentimes dementia can be confused with Alzheimer's. And the big difference is, think of it as dementia being an umbrella, just as is shown in the slide. And underneath the umbrella covers all the different types of what dementia is. So Alzheimer's and dementia are not the same thing. Alzheimer's is a type of dementia, just as vascular dementia or Lewy body dementia and all the other ones that are listed down there. And I often tell people that many caregivers that are caring for a person living with dementia, they may oftentimes be diagnosed with just either dementia on its own, or it can be many other types of dementia, and they can all have different effects causing a different journey for each and every one of them. So it's possible for you not to only have vascular dementia, but you can also have Alzheimer's and vascular dementia. Next slide, please. So here we're going to learn about the different types of symptoms that differs early signs of dementia versus normal aging. So for example, a few symptoms of normal aging can include forgetting names, but being able to remember them later, or making errors at work, forgetting how to record a TV show, being confused about what day of the week it is, and then having just changes in your vision versus having early signs of dementia, not being able to remember, for example, your mother's name and she lives with you and you see her day to day. That would be a problem because this is a person you see more than once. You live with her, you wake up and she's there, you go to sleep and she's there. And so not being able to remember her name, that is the biggest difference from meeting a person 3 months ago and not being able to recall what their name is. Um, Challenges in planning or solving problems. Usually this can mean forgetting basic math functions such as like 2 plus 2 or 4 plus 4, the things we learn early on in our life. Difficulty completing familiar tasks. This can refer to remembering to turn off the stove when you're done cooking. Oftentimes, people living with dementia will remember that in order for them to cook, they have to turn on the stove and forget to turn it off, which can be a big hazard. And they'll probably tell you that they didn't realize that they had to turn off the stove. So that's a difference between not knowing how to use a brand new remote to record a television show. Being confused with time or place can refer to we're in the summertime and a person can say that it's the winter time. And so being able to not distinguish between seasons is a bigger problem than just waking up and thinking, oh my God, it feels like a Sunday versus it being a Monday. Trouble understanding visual images and spatial relationships. This refers to road signs. So if you're a driver living with dementia and you are unable to comprehend the stop sign or the lights of the road, meaning green means go, yellow means stop, yellow means slow down, red means stop, that is concerning because oftentimes we learn these signs really early on in our life. And as we get older, sometimes we forget, like I had mentioned, the day of the week it is, but being not able to remember what the stop sign means or having trouble understanding what the light of the sign, like green, red, and yellow means, that's a bigger concern. And then these are another few 10 early signs and symptoms. So normal aging can refer to having trouble finding the right words. We often misplace things from time to time, but we're able to find them. Making a bad decision once in a while, or feeling like tired of work and you don't want to go to any like family or social obligations later, encountering an event that frustrates you. These can be different from having problems with words and speaking or writing. Oftentimes, a person with dementia are not able to comprehend or put together really long sentences. So it's why we encourage people to use short and simple sentences, and they're able to retain that information a lot better versus you explaining or telling them a whole story. Misplacing things and losing the ability to retrace steps. I know I forget where my car keys are at least 3 times out of the day, but a person not being able to remember an alarm code that they're put every single day for years is a bigger concern, or not remembering where they parked their car and it's standing right outside the driveway. That can be another example. Decrease or poor judgment. Oftentimes, people living with dementia feel as if they're always in danger. They can come across a person, for example, their mother or their father that's living with them and just feel like they're going to hurt them. And so they experience a lot of mood swings, a lot of poor judgment calls. And this can be difficult from making a bad decision. For example, at work, you make the wrong call, it happens, versus someone that lives through this a little bit more consistently. A person showing early signs would also show withdrawal from work or social activities, and oftentimes this can lead to social isolation. But the main thing is that this often gets confused with like depression, for example. So it's really important to kind of just pay attention to all the other signs that they're showing. And then, as I had mentioned, they experience changes in mood or personality. And this may not just be the dementia speaking, but for example, they were experiencing another type of dementia, then they would experience these symptoms as well. So now there's an activity, and you guys are more than welcome to share or type in the chat. But how many steps are involved in making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich? There's way more than you think. Little things like opening the bag, opening the jar. There's 7 steps, some say 10, and some say more than 13. You might actually be right on that one. There's definitely a lot of steps. I think the big part about it is that we forget all the steps we do subconsciously, such as remembering that we're hungry, remembering where the kitchen is, just thinking if we want a sandwich, finding the kitchen, turning on the light, opening the drawer, looking for the utensils, remembering if the bread is out in the cabinet or in the fridge, or if the peanut butter is in the fridge or in the cabinet, or if we want jelly, or if we're going to cut the sandwich in half, or what goes first, the jelly or the peanut butter, or if the peanut butter goes on both slices of bread and jelly just on one slice of bread. So there's a lot of steps involved in making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. And you all did a really great job at listing that there's definitely more than 5. But essentially all the other ones that we think of, like for example, opening the jar, this is something we do subconsciously. It's not a step we tell people when they ask us how long does it take you to make a sandwich. Oh, less than like 3 minutes. You just find the bread, the jelly, and the peanut butter, and that's the most basic way of making a sandwich. A person living with dementia would only be able to tell you that, but not be able to remember anything that we did subconsciously. So they're going to have a hard time finding the kitchen or remembering to turn off the lights. And you might walk in on them making a sandwich in the dark at 8 o'clock in the afternoon, 8 o'clock in the evening. So these are some of the symptoms where a person living with dementia are not able to comprehend and do things subconsciously the way a normal aging person would. And then can you click one more time? Thank you. So this is a bookshelf model. And before I say, as I had mentioned, that Alzheimer's is the most common type of dementia. So about 60 to 80% of those cases accounted for Alzheimer's. And this right here would be the bookshelf model. So you'll see underneath the healthy brain, there's a full shelf full of books. And you'll see that it goes from childhood to your teenage years, to your adulthood, to the middle age, to your older age. And we're going to say that every book represents a memory. So every book at the bottom of the shelf towards your childhood and teenage years are going to represent your basic motor skills. So your daily function math, 2 plus 2, 4 plus 4. It's going to have all your emotions and all your childhood memories. As you get older and as we get older, we learn to drive, which would be in our teenage to adulthood years. We're learning the road signs. As we get older, we get more comfortable with knowing a little bit more about where we work at, things we learned how to do at work. And then we have our older memories once we reach our older age. A person living with early stage dementia, you'll notice that at the older age category, there's books missing, meaning that just because the memories aren't there means that they don't exactly remember them, but they're going to be a lot harder for them to find. As the disease progresses to the middle stage, you'll notice that a lot more books are missing, meaning that all those memories, all those factual daily functioning tasks that they learned during those time period in their life are a lot harder to find, or they're not too comfortable with remembering how to do it. And this is where like having trouble with the visual road signs would come in play, or making those bad judgment calls, or feeling paranoid and having hallucinations. That's where those are going to happen. And then you'll notice that at the late stage, the whole shelf is collapsing. And this is a good representation in showing how, as progressive as this disease comes, eventually the end result is the same for everyone. And it's an unfortunate thing. But the good thing that I see in it is that even though all the bookshelves are falling, that last shelf is still there, meaning that the one thing they're going to retain are their emotions. So they may not be able to remember you or remember your name or remember a story that you're telling them that happened when they were like 20 years old, but they'll be able to remember all their childhood memories, all their childhood feelings, and they'll live in that. Oftentimes, a lot of people living with dementia will recall when they were kids, and they'll live in that reality. For example, if their mother has passed away, they will reminisce and go back into time, and in their mind, they're going to think that their mother is alive, even though in reality time she isn't. Next slide, please. So tips for effective communication. It's really important to be aware of your feelings and to speak clearly, because your feelings project into another person. If you are upset, if you are angry, if you are frustrated, they can see right through that, and that's not going to be easy for any one of us. Always remain eye contact. They like to know that you're listening to them and that you're really paying attention to what they're saying. And this also comes with listening with understanding and interest. Meaning, if they're living in a reality that isn't true, do not tell them that it isn't true. Just listen with caution and just hear them out. They like to know that what they're saying is validated. Limit your conversation to short and simple sentences. As I had mentioned, they're not going to be able to comprehend longer sentences, bigger paragraphs. Keep it short and concise. Never ever argue with them. They may not always be in the right, but arguing with them just makes them even more upset. And so that's not going to help them feel any better. And then, as I had mentioned, they're going to reminisce. So they're going to go back into time when they were children and tell you stories about how they were young and they were at a beach or at a birthday party. And I think during this time, it's really important to just be there for them and offer them that comfort. So a dementia friend. A dementia friend is a global movement that was developed by the Alzheimer Society in the United Kingdom, and now it has become a worldwide initiative. So a dementia friend is someone who learns about what it's like to live with dementia and turns that understanding into action. Currently, there are more than 160,000, 600,000 dementia friends nationwide, and there are more than 10,000 dementia friends in Illinois. We're going to go ahead and play this video. If you are not able to hear it, then just type in the chat that you're not able to hear it.
If you saw someone living with dementia, would you recognize the signs? Would you be uncomfortable? Would you avoid them? Would you be frustrated? Would you do nothing? Or would you be a friend? Would you engage them and empower them to get through their day? Would you welcome the opportunity to help them feel like a part of your community? Would you take even the smallest step to make their world less frightening or confusing? Every single one of us has a unique part to play in the lives of people living with dementia in our community. Become a dementia friend today and build communities where all people can live, age, and thrive.
Hey, Mr. Fredrickson, it's Tuesday. Aren't you going to the store?
Yeah.
Come on, I'll walk with you.
Find out more at dementiafriendsusa.org.
And then you can click on the next slide. And Dementia Friends USA has more of those videos, and I'll send the link over. That way it can be shared with you guys. So Dementia Friends, as I had mentioned, it's an individual effort. So it's something we do alone. We learn about dementia. We learn what it's like to live with it. Now, what do we do to make this a community effort? And that's what dementia-friendly communities are. They're community effort, meaning this takes more than just one person. It takes the healthcare. It takes residential settings, libraries, restaurants, retail stores, or faith-based communities. businesses. And the more that we can spread this awareness, the more dementia-friendly communities there will be, and it will be an easier way. So when we are outside and we're able to identify these people, we can definitely get them the help and the resources that they need. Next slide, please. So currently, Illinois has 36 dementia-friendly communities. We reside in Oak Park, so Oak Park is a dementia-friendly community, but a few of them would be like Austin, Carbondale, we have Decatur, Elgin, Evanston, Hyde Park, there's Rockford, River Forest. Tinley is a recent new one that just became a dementia-friendly community. So 5 key messages of being a dementia friend is dementia is not a normal part of aging. Dementia is caused by diseases of the brain. Dementia is not just about having memory problems, but this also affects your cognitive thinking and your social abilities. It is possible to have a good quality of life with dementia. I think most times people confuse it, and once they're diagnosed, they just feel like it's the end of the world, and it's not. There are ways that we can still live comfortable and still have a good quality of life. And there is more to the person than just a dementia. A disease doesn't define you. Next slide, please. And this video is going to highlight a little bit more in depth about the 5 key messages that we just reviewed.
I found myself saying something or trying to say something, and then I realized that the word didn't even fit in that I said or something like that. So I just kept, thinking about it, and it didn't happen every day. It didn't happen, hardly at all. And then it just kept getting a little bit worse and a little bit worse.
I think some of the family members thought something was off, I guess. Did any of them think dementia? Probably not.
When you used to doing things and doing it right and doing it, and and all of a sudden, you can't remember this, and you can't, what is your name, and it's like a dark area. It's just like being in darkness,
And I think everybody that with this disease, people walk away from them. They're afraid they're going to catch it, like measles or mumps. And that bothers me that they do that.
I have to be aware that any moment my brain might not tell me where to go.
My first reaction was that I'm going to beat this disease.
I can't spell anything like I used to be able to just spell, you just write a check. Now I'm not clear what the thing is, how you do it or anything. All that stuff that I thought I was so good at is gone, or on the way gone.
Remembering names, I think that's the biggest issue with me.
People sometimes would kind of look at you kind of strange because I'm not saying what they want me to say or talk the way they want me to talk.
When I started putting my shirts on backwards, that was one of my early signs too.
Walking, that's why I have a cane now, and because I have a tendency to rock sideways, and I don't want to trip or fall.
Darkness is not good for me, and I tend to trip or fall, and my coordination isn't as it used to be.
Oh, I don't cook anymore either, because when I cook, and it doesn't matter if someone's in the house or not, I just start cooking and I forget about using, what do you use when you cook? What? Stove. The stove. I forget every time to turn it off. Every time I've cooked, no matter who's there.
And right now, like I'm doing really good because I have someone that takes care of me really good, you know.
Be active in the community still. Go to yoga, do things like that. Don't do it so well, but that's okay.
Staying active, even a little bit active, keeps you interested.
And I like to be around people.
When people would struggle, I'd go over and help them. And I found it very uplifting to help other people.
You know, you can't deny this disease. If you deny it, you're going to get in trouble.
The singing is very, very good to the brain. We know that. And the more we can do that, the better off we'll be.
People that have dementia, I think, are very unique. And I think they have a lot to offer still.
It's an attitude here. You have to get up in the morning and say, okay, I got to do this today. Even if it's just one thing.
I can say to a person that it's going to be all right. And I can say to a person that depend on God. Because with God, everything is possible.
I'm not ashamed of it. And nobody should be. I mean, I had cancer. Was I ashamed of having cancer? No. Why would I be? You know? Why should I be ashamed of having dementia?
I've lasted 14 years with this disease. It's not going to go away. I accept that. Only thing I guess with my future is that I'll work as hard as I can to stay alive and function.
Perfect. So call to action. So being Dementia Friends means doing something. And as we have learned, we've learned a few symptoms of what early signs are. We've learned the effective ways of communication, the 5 key messages. So now this was the individual effort. You attended a session and became a Dementia Friend. And now moving forward, what are we going to do as a community? Next slide, please. These are all the resources available. So we do have AgeOptions listed there, the Alzheimer's Association. We have the Alzheimer's Disease Education and Referral System. The helpline is there. So if you ever need to call someone, you can definitely call that 24/7 helpline. We do have the Area and Agency on Aging, and that provides national information and resources. We have the Illinois Caregiver Coalition and the Cognitive Resource Network, which you can definitely find more of those videos using that link. And I will be sending out the PowerPoint so you guys have access to that those resources. And this is my email and my direct line. So if you have any other questions or if you need resources, you can always email me or give me a phone call. But thank you. And now I'll open the floor to any questions that you guys may have.
Thanks again to Cynthia for joining us this month. Don't forget to check out the video description below for slides from her presentation and other helpful resources discussed during Q&A. We hope that you will join us again on August 27th when we welcome a special guest from PrideNet. Do you want your healthcare to be less one-size-fits-all and more tailored? To be more affirming and inclusive for LGBTQIA+ people and reflect how our communities have unique health experiences and face different barriers? In this workshop, led by Midwest Community Engagement Coordinator Cassie Armea Warren, we'll explore these questions. What PrideNet is doing to catalyze LGBTQIA+ health research, share results from their recent community listening sessions with older adults, and discuss ways to get involved. Sign up for email reminders of future events at www.thrivingwithpride.org. Thanks for watching.